Now, when does a guy realize that he has a problem?
Yeah, I think it's a little different for everyone. It could be a range. You could get busted is the most common. Your wife opens the door or whatever, and you're caught red-handed. About 10% of people just naturally come out and say, "Hey, I'm sick of my sin. I'm ready to do this." Oftentimes, it's someone's asking you directly. It's like you have a decision. You can lie. It's like, "Rick, man, when was the last time you used pornography? Is this an issue in your life?" It's like you have two options. You can come clean, tell the truth, or you can lie. If someone asks you that enough, you're either going to keep telling the truth and you're not struggling, or you're going to come out and be clean.
Welcome to the Faithful Fathering Podcast. This is Rick Wirtz, founder and president of Faithful Fathering. Just glad to have you with us in the studio today. And our dear friend in ministry with Freedom Fight is Andrew Buck, the operations manager for Freedom Fight. Thanks for joining us, Andrew.
Thank you.
And I want you to just share what is Freedom Fight all about, what's behind it, how to get started, and share the story with us.
Yeah. So Freedom Fight, our core mission verse is Hebrews 12:1, running a race, right, with endurance, right?
Surrounded by a cloud of witnesses.
Yes, and getting rid of the sin, which so entangles us, right? And we've just seen be the sin, which is so heavy and is so a deep weight. It's trying to run a race with a 45-pound plate on the ground and you're dragging it, right? It's like, man, when believers, when we can find freedom, right? 1% of people, God instantly delivers. 1 to 2, 98% of people need to. Man, God's using the process of finding freedom
from any sin.
From any sin.
Yeah.
In particular, man, when he's doing that, they're set on fire for Christ. They're at a different level with their walk, and they're free from this weight that's holding them far back from running the race that God has for them. And so that's really what the Freedom Fight is trying to do, is trying to help men and women do that. Our founder, so Ted Shimmer, who's my boss, he started the Freedom Fight in 2017. It was birthed out of a campus ministry, student mobilization, that's trying to produce spiritual leaders on the campus. And so campuses are really unique. You get to kind of see what's coming to society early. And so in 2007, they thought it was really bad that 40% of their men were struggling with. They thought the world had ended in terms of being able to reproduce spiritual leaders on campus.
Wow.
And so in
40% of students on campus, leaders on campus, for sure.
Of those men. And what they found in 2007, that started a journey of 10 years evaluating over 30 different recovery counseling, just all types of programs on how can we systematically address this with our college students in a way that's effective, that's biblical. And essentially what they found was that, man, there isn't anything really that meets all the check boxes that we want. And that's when the Freedom Fight was launched in 2017, was just for STUMO. That's all it was for, was a biblically based, gospel-centered, scientifically informed program that helped students walk through this issue. And so 2017 was when it was launched. I came on staff in 2020, and that's when we really opened it up to, hey, we felt a calling and a conviction. Man, we need to give the entire church this tool, and we're going to try to make it better. We're going to keep working on it. And so Ted, he has a CSAT training, the equivalent. It's like a supervisor. It's the ministry version of this. It's essentially a counseling degree in this. And he also went through all these things, and he kind of put together the program. And then we've been working on making it reproducible.
I see. And do you focus on partnering with churches?
Yes, very much. So it's a little interesting, what partnering with the church in this area looks like. I would say usually more equipping. We do partner with some churches that want to partner back. Most of them just want.
I was going to say, how do you do that recruit in the church at the back of the foyer? Do you have a sign? Hey, if you struggle with, come over, sign up over here.
That's the worst idea. And that's happened. If you put a booth in the back, no one's going to come, right? Because no one wants to be the guy. I didn't have any intentions of being the guy. If you would ask me when I was growing up, your teachers, what do you want to be when you grow up? The guy was not my answer. But God called me in there and into it. And, so really, there's lots of ways, but a really quick way is, man, finding a faithful laborer a faithful leader in the church who has a conviction and a heart for helping in this area, equipping that person who can then recruit in his local community 4 to 6 guys. The way that Freedom Fight's set up is if you let a Bible study, you can lead a Freedom Fight group. We've got everything you need to lead, and it's very easy. Now, it's very easy to lead the group. Now, the tough conversations that happen in the group is where we have to be sensitive to the Spirit and leading through that, because of just if you've ever discipled anyone, life is just hard, and it's gonna hard things are gonna come up, and that has to be addressed kind of as you go.
Sure. Now, share your mission. What is the mission and vision for Freedom Fight?
Right. It's really to help men and women run with endurance the race that God has for them.
Okay.
And so, fleeing, putting off the sin that is keeping them from running that race.
Right.
And so, what mechanism how we do that is kind of several different approaches. Is one, equipping the local church to equip them to lead their people. We have an online kind of flow in. We have a community where thousands of people have found accountability. If you can't do so in your church for whatever reason, maybe your church doesn't talk about it, or there's so many different reasons. And then we also have paid groups where they're particularly motivated, want to be led by a certified leader. They can join a group like that. And so that's going to be able to go through there. And our hope and our desire is that after finishing, you're equipped. Now you can go lead a different group in your church and be able to make an impact that way.
Now, I saw on your website you have a fabulous statement of faith, which I agree 100% with. How does the faith component come in there? I mean, obviously, everything you've spoken of has to do with a maturing of your faith and understanding God's design and His call to healthy relationship. How do you emphasize that piece all the way around?
Yeah, I would say this is probably what makes the Freedom Fight most differentiated from any other type of recovery program out there, is how rooted in the gospel and how step by step. So the Freedom Fight course is over 60 5 to 8 minute lessons. Each lesson is rooted in scripture, but each lesson is accompanied with a Bible study. So let's say you were in my group and we were meeting together with 3 other guys. We would do a check-in. We would talk about our week. It's a guided check-in that you would prepare ahead of time. And then the rest of the 45 minutes of our group meeting, we're going to go through a lesson. We're going to go through a Bible study that goes with that lesson, and we're going to do 2 or 3 of those every week. Okay. And we're going to discuss those every single week. And
you said there's 65 to 8 minute lessons. Okay.
Yep.
So they're tight.
Yeah. Very condensed, very to the point, very practical to, hey, here's this concept, or here's this tool. Let's talk about it. You're going to fill in the blanks in your study guide. You're going to do the Bible study that lesson's actually rooted in, and then we're going to come to group and we're going to discuss it and talk through it, and then make really practical applications on how to apply what you learned that week.
What if a guy says this is just too churchy for me?
Man, I've never heard that.
Really?
Been doing this for 5 years, I guess.
I hear that all the time. That, if you're out, we go on our trips in the wilderness and what have you.
Yeah,
it's just a little bit churchy. I hear that sometimes.
Yeah,
so we're always kind of cautious. Obviously, we always use scripture, and that's critical. That's foundational for any kind of recovery, whatever you're doing, whether it's just recovery from a bad relationship or just whatever the case may be.
Yeah. Well, one response I have to people who are having a trouble thinking about or doing certain things that maybe we're recommending is, hey man, you've spent how many years trying to do this on your own, lost in your addiction, lost in your struggle, your habit, whatever you want to call it. Man, 86% of people who go through the Freedom Fight and do it on all cylinders are finding freedom. It's like, man, are you willing to do what it takes to find freedom? Because what you've been doing beforehand has not been working. Right. And so we can't expect to do the same thing and experience different results than what we're currently doing.
Well, I've heard that a few times. Just keep walking into that wall, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like finding freedom from pornography oftentimes will be one of the most difficult things someone's going to do in their life. But freedom is possible. God's promised it. Mm-hmm. But we have to meet God half of the way. We can't just be just sit back and do nothing, right?
Right. And as you said, 1% may experience immediate freedom,
Yep.
but the other 99% have to get on this journey.
Yep.
And that journey is not an easy journey. There's a lot of, it's a roller coaster ride.
And you can't do it by yourself. And that's the two most important factors for someone finding freedom from in general is having a relationship with God. And the second one is being in a small group, a committed small group. And so those two things are, your faith is instrumental. And the second biggest thing is having a group of people that you can confess to, that's going to encourage you, because we were wounded in community, right? This is what Dr. Ted Roberts says, who's founder of Pure Desire. We were wounded in community, and we need to be healed in community to experience that lasting freedom.
That's interesting. I think of the wound of a relationship that may have been a wound in the home.
Which he would say is that community,
that's
your home
community.
Yeah,
sure. Now, when does a guy realize that he has a problem?
Yeah, I think it's a little different for everyone. It could be a range. You could get busted is the most common. Your wife opens the door or whatever, and you're caught, red-handed. There's some people that about 10% of people just naturally come out and say, "Hey, I'm ready to. I'm sick of my sin. I'm ready to do this." Oftentimes, it's someone's asking you directly. It's like you have a decision. You can lie. It's like, Rick, man, when was the last time you used? Is this an issue in your life? It's like you have two options. You can come clean, tell the truth, or you can lie.
Right.
And if someone asks you that enough, you're either going to keep telling the truth and you're not struggling, or you're going to come out and be clean.
I have a friend, Rod Handley, has a ministry he calls Character Counts. And he has a card, an accountability card. There's 10 questions, and the 10th question is, have you lied to me about any of this stuff?
Yeah, that's in our weekly check-in in our app. So if you join my group, every week you're going to have a question. So like we say, hey, how many times did you check in this week? How many times did you make a phone call this week? Did you complete everything this week? Did you lie this week about anything? We don't even care if it's about this stuff. We just did you lie in general? Because if we're lying in general, you're more susceptible to lying about things that are really important.
Absolutely, that the truth shall set you free, as is stated there. Now, are there degrees of addiction that you can sensitize guys to that say, maybe it's you just like to hang around watching football for the commercials and the cheerleaders, or maybe it's diving into a site. What's the spectra, and how would you encourage a guy to understand the different degrees?
Yeah, that's another great question, and the answer is yes. There is different levels of addiction, right? There's the people who just struggle with lust, right? Maybe it's or maybe fantasy. Which is equally important.
Right.
That it could be great to join a group and address that, and it's because it's going to overflow in every other part of your life too. Is addressing this, right? You're going to grow in everything.
Right.
It's going to make all the other areas that you're really struggling with too helpful. But yeah, there's I would say there's that fantasy. There's someone who's using a couple times a year, whatever your cycle could be. And then where the addiction goes very deep is when, people who are just scrolling for hours and hours and hours, especially when they're growing up or they have some significant trauma, they're using it. Really, it's that survival part of that brain. And so it could be weekly, it could be monthly, it could be daily, it could be multiple times a day. But also the extent of what they're using, how deviant, how shameful, sometimes it's going, like there's a guy I knew that would go to a church to act out because he didn't have access anywhere else. He could have gone somewhere else, but the kind of the danger of doing it in a place that you're not supposed to do it raise the dopamine level to a different level and to help him get that same fix that he was getting before. And so it ranges widely, but it doesn't matter if you're using it a couple times a month, a couple times a year, or you're using it daily. If you're in this what we call the binge purge cycle, if you're consistently I'm gonna cut it all off, I'm gonna do it, and then maybe it's not every day or it's not monthly, but man, you come back to it's your safety net. Man, there's something there that needs to be addressed that is dysfunctional that we need to work through. to find that lasting
Is there
freedom.
anything for the younger age groups or parents are equipped to help a child that's gotten caught up in it?
Yes, so that's really tough. There's a few things out there, like you mentioned, that Good Pictures, Bad Pictures book is good. We have a resource called a 30-day challenge that's free that you can go through with your kids. If they're watching porn, there's nothing in our 30-day challenge that's going to be too explicit or not explicit is not the right word, too, the age demographic.
Age appropriate.
But and there's a few other things we're actually working on right now, a parent toolkit for that should be releasing in next month or two.
Right.
Kind of putting some final touches on it, just to meet that need. And it is difficult to help kids in this area, in groups,
right?
Because confidentiality is hard,
right?
And if my kid's going to church, and the pastor's talking to them about, there's things that are really great about that, but there's also a lot of dangers in that. If just church wide, man, there's just a lot of confidentiality issues. There's a lot of distrust issues and just being appropriate in different contexts. So there's, a lot of things that need to happen. If you're a church that's getting ready to address this in your youth, it could be helpful. Hey, parents, we're going to talk about something that we're going to be going through. Here's a waiver I need everybody to sign if you're allowing your kid to be a part of these conversations, because we're going to be talking about it plainly. If you don't want them hearing about it, for whatever reason, they need being all on the same page so you don't get an angry parent coming into your church.
I know a pastor got in trouble just for going through the Songs of Solomon. That gets pretty graphic there.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's all in the context of marriage. But these are things that need to be addressed. And I mean, the design is a beautiful design. Is a beautiful thing if it's in the right context, obviously in the context of marriage. So now, what's the best way for a man to engage if he sees an issue, or he has a group of buddies that are just saying, hey, this is something let's get real. We all struggle with lust. What do we need to do? What would be the best way for them to engage with you?
Yeah, I think so. It's going to the freeandfight.org. Creating a free account and going through our 30-day challenge would be the single easiest and best way to get a taste. It's going to be a 4 or 5 week study you could do. You can kind of choose your options there. You could join us. You can create a small group in our app, and you can message in there, so it's confidential. So someone's not checking in, confessing something, and your phone's on the kitchen table with your kids walking by looking at it. It's like we put it all in the app, so it's confidential. But that'd be the easiest way, is just to go there, download the app. You can go to the App Store, also download it, and go through our 30-day challenge. And same for if you're a parent with a kid, is you can go through it. You can even vet it if you want to. It's about 10 minutes a day of content. It's that 30-day challenge, and it's a very easy, practical first step tool. And then for those who are really ready, that our flagship program is 7 months, and you'll purchase that for $12 a month or $60 one time, and you can go through that with a study guide, and that's like the full experience would be that.
But the 30-day challenge I could do with a group of buddies and say, hey, everybody sign up in this. We're going to be in this app. Are they all mutually in the app together?
Yep, you would all get in there.
Fascinating. Okay.
And you could create. You don't have to create a group. You can, or you can just say, hey, download this app, open up the 30-day challenge. Next week, we're going to discuss days 1 through 7. We've got a leader's guide in there for you, that you would have all the questions that you would have to ask, or, you could ask others based on the conversation. But we try to make this, if you've led any kind of Bible study before, you can lead a free and fight group. And that for the 30-day challenge, we recommend, anywhere from, 4 to 12 guys. And then for the flagship is 4 to 6 guys for timing wise.
Right. Well, finally, Andrew, why don't you share with us, how has the Lord blessed His light into your life as a function of your freedom from this issue?
Yeah, man, I think the biggest thing is being free to really engage in this kingdom, to be a partaker in the divine nature, as the scriptures would say. I feel that, but also feel the enemy, man. I'm in ministry. I'm doing it. I'm trying it, man. There's some pressure there, and to combat that, something that's been a byproduct of going into ministry is a height of accountability in my life that has been super encouraging. I meet every other week with 4 other guys from my church, and we talk about we meet for an hour, but we all go through kind of man, what am I struggling with? What am I working on? Man, what do I need to commit to? What's been a highlight from the week? How's my marriage? So it's, all those things. And I think that because I found freedom, because I've gone into the ministry, I wouldn't have a desire to have deep accountability with other men if I hadn't walked through this. I don't think. Maybe I would have got it after. I don't know what the Lord's will would have been, but I just deeply experienced that currently, and I have to with my job also. I send a weekly staff report. Man, how's your marriage? How's your walk with God? How's your prayer life? So it's like all those things are just, they push me towards Him. Whereas if I was off by myself, not in community, man, I'd be drowning.
I know myself in the spiritual walk, the glimpse of God's glory He always gives me is with my bride.
Yeah.
That this is a healthy relationship, and now you're sharing that healthy relationship with your kids. Because, I always say the kids are going to catch what you have. The question is what you have is what you want your kids to catch.
Yeah.
Right? And if they see that loving relationship with your bride day in, day out, they're catching it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so thankful to be able to be in my marriage now, not having to have to disclose, I've walked with so many men who have to go do that process. And it's heartbreaking, really. It's not impossible. It's very difficult to tell your wife you've been hiding this for X amount of years, and you're trying to find freedom and you're in this thing. But I'm just, it's allowed my marriage to go way deeper, to be more transparent and more open, and because I've addressed this issue in my life, almost take it for granted sometimes, but I am so thankful, and being able just to lead my kids with a pure heart, right? Not, there's a lot of stats on, man, if you're struggling with, you're not as likely to pass on your spiritualness because the shame that is locking you in there. And so, I'm just like you. I'm so grateful to be able to walk with an open heart into my marriage.
Right. And I think that's what Paul's talking about in Ephesians 6, 10 through 18. They're putting that full armor on. Yeah. And that's really what you're supposed to do, dads, is stand firm. Put that belt of truth on, which is staying under the authority of the Word of God. Put that breastplate of righteousness in place to do what's right in God's eyes, not in man's eyes. To have those feet fitted with the readiness is the gospel of peace. That's conformance to Christ, more today than yesterday. That's healthy relationship reflected in marriage every day. To have that helmet of salvation, embrace His saving grace, and work out that salvation with fear and trembling. It may require that 30-day challenge to go through that trembling. But then lift that shield up high, that shield of faith, which is prayer lifted up to guard you and your marriage, your family. And finally, draw that sword. Keep that sword out of its sheath. It's the Word of God wielded wisely to cut through the devil's schemes. And of course, one of the biggest schemes, Andrew, is addictions, temptation, lust, and, which of course all feeds into. So thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing your story with us.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
Tune in to freedomfight.org. Be the man you're called to be, the dad your kids need to see every day. God bless. Godspeed.